Hey everyone, it's Jody Seeley with Our High River as we continue with our conversations to get to know our candidates vying for positions of both council and mayor in the town of High River. We're now joined by Kelly Killick-Smit. I got that right. You've got all the names there.
Yes, I do.
And
I'm an
she,
I'm an
sorry,
H-less Smith, so
there
there's
you
no
go.
H on the end. H-less Smith. Smith.
Smit. Why did I
Yes.
say Smith? I even
I,
have Smith written down. My apologies,
I
Kelly.
get it all the time. It's all
It's
good.
Kelly. So we got your first name. That's what matters most. And Kelly is vying for one of our positions for counselor. And I thank you so much in what's kind of the crunch time, taking a moment to connect with us and answer a few more questions from our community members. I appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak and be heard and get the word out. So no, I'm very grateful.
Well, let's start with what I'm hoping is the easy question. I'm kidding. None of them are really hard. But we just want to learn a little bit more. Tell us a bit about yourself and then why you chose to throw your hat in to run for council.
Sure. So, my name is Kelly, and I decided that I wanted to run as a result of a few things that transpired as the pandemic sort of unfolded. My job was cut short. I worked at Kids Cancer Care in Calgary, and because I do large scale events, there were no large scale events happening. And so, to get involved in our community, I got a job locally working in a grocery store and had the opportunity to really meet and get to know our people in High River. And so that was such an unexpected gift in all of this was to be able to do that. And so when I started thinking about what I wanted to do in the next chapter of my life, I have a degree in political science and communications. Who knew? And I did get to use it in Ottawa on Parliament Hill as a legislative assistant for a member of parliament there. So I understand policy and procedure from that side of things a little bit. And then, looking at where we are as a community, I wanted to get involved on a bigger level to help take us forward. We've done a lot of work already to get us primed and ready to go to grow forward. And so I'm excited at the opportunity to join the team that's going to help that happen.
Very cool. Well, in the sake of streamlining I'm sure there's lots of things that if I was to ask you, what do you hope to accomplish? There would be so many great things. But can we narrow it down, Kelly, for have you share what you feel is maybe your top three priorities if you were elected and how you kind of see that rolling out if you get the opportunity?
Sure. So I would say the first priority for me is to develop a strategy that's going to attract people and business to High River. So, we have a beautiful gem of a town. It is beautiful. Our downtown is beautiful, and we have so much that we can offer and share for growth. And so, in my previous life, I served on the Business and Tourism Advisory Committee for the town of High River prior to a move to Indiana. And so as part of that there was a robust economic development team that went out and actively pursued businesses to come to High River. And I think that since the flood, we've had our focus on remediation and reconstruction and infrastructure and all of those things that have made us ready to go. And now we're at that point where we need to look at progressively attracting business and people to come to High River. So I think that's sort of my first area of focus that I would like to see us channel. Um, and then the second one is, of course, fiscal responsibility. We need to make sure that we're keeping an eye on the budget. I think that our previous council and the folks that have come before have done a very good job at that. So I don't have any beef or criticism there. I just think that if we're going to be attractive and grow ourselves forward, we also need to look at the bottom line. The pool question is a big question for a lot of folks. And while it's a non-binding referendum, which means that council can take a yes and go forward and discuss it and figure out what's best, a no shuts down the conversation altogether. A yes to this conversation means that we can look at what are the advantages of having another facility. Our current facility isn't accessible. It isn't user friendly for folks in wheelchairs, for seniors, for young children. And so if we say no to that, that's fine if that's the decision. But at the same time, we need to look at what's going to spur some economic growth for our town. Because when people come here for bonspiels and swim meets and curling match, all of that kind of stuff, they usually eat in our restaurants and they may stay in our hotels and they may forget their swimming suit and need to go to a store and buy one. So I think we need to look at fiscal responsibility, but also growth potential. And so I want to make sure that that's another focus. The third one, of course, is community involvement. And we have an amazing community in High River. We have so much going on. And I think that unfortunately, with the pandemic, that shut down a lot of our volunteer esprit de corps kind of thing because people haven't been able to get out and engage. And so as we emerge, I'd like to see us keep going with things like the balloon festival and the car show and fill up our downtown with events because we have such a beautiful downtown to showcase. And I think that's going to be a draw for people is encourage that community involvement and what can we do to keep people coming and wanting to come and discover our gem of a town.
I love that. Thank you.
You bet.
Some of the feedback that we got from citizens in helping us create these questions for these conversations was some conversation around what transparency looks like for candidates coming in and respect factors in different pieces. And a few people brought up the AUMA local democracy pledge. So that's one that we kind of shared with the candidates, wondering your thoughts on what that looks like. Is it something you'd be willing to sign, and kind of what you think about that process?
Sure. Well, I mean, it asks for accountability and transparency, and so, I mean, how could you not want that as a counselor? And so, I haven't taken the pledge, but I did write it down. And so, if you don't mind, I'll take it right
Yeah,
now. How's that?
great. Sure.
Okay. So, I, Kelly Killick-Smit, seeking to represent the town of High River, pledge to keep elections local by focusing my campaign issues that municipal elected officials can influence. Maintain independence and nonpartisanship by rejecting any endorsements which would undermine my accountability to municipal residents or the autonomy of the municipality. Demonstrate transparency by sharing my vision for the municipality and providing pre election disclosure of campaign contributions and spending. Engage in respectful behavior by sharing my perspective while respecting and seeking to understand differences.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, because I think some people probably don't know what the pledge totally read out either. So thank you for educating us while you take it. That's perfect.
There we go.
Now, we know that there will be some transition that will come into play, because we know we have spaces that will be open because we have people that didn't run for reelection. So we know there's going to be some shift and change when it goes from our previous council to the new one. Wondering your thoughts on the current council's number one strategic priority, which was the long-term water strategy for High River. And so your thoughts on that, and will you continue to move that forward?
Well, I wasn't aware of that until I received some questions recently, and so I've done a little digging to see what that's all about. And I do think that water is one of those things that we just can't live without. And so, of course, it's going to if that's the strategy and a long-term projection. Need for High River and for all of the municipalities, then that's certainly something that we need to keep the dialogue and the discussion and the strategy evolving. But I did do some digging on the subject, and I didn't find a lot yet, but that doesn't mean that it's not there, and I just didn't look in the right spot. So, because it's listed as a number one priority for the town, I did find some information about a long term water strategy for the Calgary metropolitan region and the need for a comprehensive strategy for watershed planning. And so the biggest component of that is collaboration and stewardship and coming together for a cumulative approach. So I think it's going to be a collective discussion with other municipalities and not just High River or the county and both. And so when you look at the impact and the outcomes, for the basins that are around us, that's the South Saskatchewan, the Bow, the Old Man, the Red Deer subbasins. I think that's something that we're going to have to look at. And I think the number one way we can do that is through efficiencies. And so I don't know, it was an interesting delve into the topic. And so I'm certainly looking forward to how we can come together with our own community and with the communities around us for a longer term strategy. I think it's certainly worth the discussion.
Absolutely. All right. Well, thank you, Kelly. We know that advanced polls happening this weekend. The big day is on Monday. If people would like to connect with you before they make their X's, what's the best way to connect with you over the next few days?
You can find me online on Facebook, and I am Kelly Killick-Smit for Council is my Facebook page. If you'd like to send me an email directly, you can at krkillicksmit@gmail.com. If you look at the highriver.ca, My Town, My Vote, all of the candidates' information is posted there under the electoral process part. And so certainly makes it one click easy to reach us all, anybody with any questions that you might have. But for me, krkillicksmit@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, I appreciate your time having a conversation during crunch time. And of course, that you're stepping up in hopes of a community leadership role. That's very admirable. So thank you so much. And good luck with this election.
Thank you very much, Jody, and to everybody who's taken the time to watch. Thank you.